West Side Story, 1961, is one of the most iconic musicals in cinema history, blending intense choreography, rich emotion, and tragic storytelling in a way that left audiences breathless. But what most people don't realize is just how strange and controversial the behind-the-scenes journey really was. From casting oddities and musical fakery to gang interference and racial makeup, the story of how this film was made is almost as dramatic as what we see on screen. Let's begin with the casting. Natalie Wood played Maria, a young Puerto Rican woman, but Natalie herself wasn't even remotely Latina. She was of Russian descent, and her accent in the film was completely fabricated. To make matters stranger, she wasn't even the one singing those beautiful high notes. Almost all of her vocals were dubbed by Marni Nixon, a ghost singer who was never credited. Nixon became the secret voice behind many leading ladies in Hollywood, including Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady and Deborah Kerr in The King and I, yet she spent most of her career in anonymity. Natalie Wood reportedly didn't know her singing would be replaced until after filming was finished. But Natalie wasn't alone. Richard Beamer, who played Tony, had all of his songs dubbed too, by a singer named Jim Bryant. Beamer later said he never truly felt comfortable in the role, believing he wasn't the right fit. Despite being the romantic lead, he struggled with the character's depth and felt overshadowed by the film's more dynamic characters and performances. Ironically, even Rita Moreno, the only actual Puerto Rican among the main cast, had her voice dubbed for one of her big numbers. Although she was a gifted singer, the producers decided her voice wasn't harsh enough for a boy like that. So they brought in Betty Wan to replace her vocals in that scene. Moreno said she found the decision heartbreaking, especially since she put so much emotion into the performance. Now here's something that really highlights the times. The studio made both the Sharks and the Jets wear the same shade of brown makeup. Yes, even the white actors playing the Jets had to wear dark foundation so they wouldn't contrast too heavily with the Sharks. The producers wanted everyone to match under the lighting, but in doing so, they created a deeply problematic image. Rita Moreno later said she was furious that, despite her own heritage, they made her skin even darker, with a tone that didn't even resemble her real complexion. Shooting on the streets of New York wasn't easy either. When the production moved into actual neighborhoods to capture the gritty realism of the city, they ran into real gang territory. Tensions escalated quickly, and the crew realized they needed protection. So what did they do? They hired actual gang members to act as security. Those same gang members hung around the edges of the set, watching the actors perform a highly stylized version of gang life. Imagine having real gang members monitoring your choreography. Talk about pressure. Jerome Robbins, who directed and choreographed the original Broadway show, was brought on to co-direct the film with Robert Wise. Robbins had a reputation for being an obsessive perfectionist. He demanded dozens of takes for scenes involving just a few seconds of dance. He meticulously coached each actor's expression, posture, timing, and breathing. But this obsessive control caused massive production delays. Eventually, the studio fired him before shooting was complete. Still, over half the film's choreography and blocking is his, and he received a Special Academy Award for his work, despite being dismissed. The choreography itself was incredibly demanding. George Chakiris, who played Bernardo, suffered hip injuries during long days of filming. The dance at the gym sequence required so many takes that cast members were collapsing between shots. They used ice packs, physical therapy, and painkillers just to get through. In the scene, America, the actors performed under brutal heat inside a closed set with no ventilation. Rita Moreno said it felt like dancing in a furnace. But somehow, the energy remained electric on screen. Robbins took method acting to another level by instructing the actors playing the Jets and Sharks not to socialize off-camera. He wanted the tension between the rival gangs to feel real. Actors had separate rehearsal schedules, separate dressing rooms, and even different entrances. This division worked, maybe too well, because there were reports of actual fistfights breaking out during production. Russ Tamblyn, who played Riff, came from a gymnastics background rather than formal dance. That's why his movement style in the film is more athletic than balletic. He performs flips, spins, and dynamic jumps that gave his scenes a raw physicality. His casting wasn't typical for a musical, but his energy helped distinguish the Jets from the more polished Sharks. The opening sequence of the movie, with its now iconic finger-snapping rhythm, was originally a simple timing tool. Dancers snapped their fingers during early rehearsals to keep time before the full orchestra tracks were recorded. But Robbins loved the visual so much that he built it into the final choreography. It became symbolic of the street rhythm that drives the whole film. Rita Moreno's performance in America nearly didn't happen the way we know it. She strongly objected to the original lyrics, which insulted Puerto Rican culture and glorified the mainland U.S. She confronted the filmmakers, and surprisingly, they listened. The lyrics were rewritten to present a more balanced, though still biting, view of immigration and cultural identity. It was a rare moment of advocacy from a Latina actress that changed a major film's message. Despite all the turmoil, West Side Story was a massive critical and commercial success. It won 10 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Supporting Actress for Rita Moreno. It was the first musical to win that many Oscars and held the record for most wins by a musical for decades. Yet, both Wood and Beamer later distanced themselves from the film, with Wood saying she didn't enjoy the experience and Beamer claiming he felt miscast. One little-known fact: the rooftop set where America was performed wasn't a real rooftop at all. It was a closed indoor stage built to simulate outdoor lighting. That's part of why it looks so stylized, and also why the heat inside was unbearable. But the result is one of the most visually striking scenes in musical history. And here's the final twist. In the 2021 remake, directed by Steven Spielberg, Rita Moreno returned. Not as Anita, but as a completely new character written just for her. At 89 years old, she became the only actor to appear in both versions of the film, bringing a legacy full circle. It was a powerful tribute to her influence and endurance, and a reminder of how far representation in Hollywood has come since 1961. So the next time you watch West Side Story, remember, behind those elegant pirouettes, catchy songs, and star-crossed lovers is a production filled with tension, ambition, controversy, and courage. It wasn't just a musical. It was a battle on and off the screen, and it changed movie musicals forever.